Have you ever been in a meeting where nobody is yelling, nobody is being openly rude, but you can still feel the tension in the room? One person thinks the younger team members are too casual, too impatient, and too quick to question everything. Another person thinks the older team members are too rigid, too slow, and too attached to outdated ways of working. Nobody says it directly, but everybody feels it. And then the real damage begins. A quick message gets interpreted as disrespect. A request for more structure gets interpreted as control. A question gets interpreted as pushback. A preference gets interpreted as attitude. And suddenly, the team is not fighting about the actual work anymore. They are fighting about each other's style, tone, pace, and unspoken assumptions. That is what cross-generational tension looks like in real life. And in the modern workplace, this is one of the biggest communication challenges people face. Because today's teams are more mixed than ever. On the same team, you may have people who built their careers in a world of formality, hierarchy, and face-to-face communication, working right next to people who grew up in a world of instant messaging, remote work, and AI-assisted speed. One group may hear directness as confidence. Another may hear it as disrespect. One group may think fast feedback is helpful. Another may think constant feedback is exhausting. One group may believe professionalism means polish, preparation, and restraint. Another may believe professionalism means clarity, efficiency, and honesty. And when those worlds collide without a shared communication system, things get messy fast. So today, we're talking about how to manage cross-generational tension at work, and more importantly, the communication frameworks that actually help multi-age teams work better together. The goal is not to make everybody act the same. The goal is to stop people from assigning bad intent to different styles. Before we dive in, if you want practical tools for stronger communication at work, make sure you subscribe to the Work Chat. This channel is all about helping you communicate with more clarity, confidence, and influence in the modern workplace. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Work Chat. Today, we're going to talk about ways to communicate better across age groups at work. The first thing we need to say is this. Most cross-generational tension is not actually about age. It is about interpretation. That is the real problem. A younger employee sends a short message because they are trying to be efficient. An older colleague reads it and thinks, that felt abrupt. A more experienced manager asks for more background before making a decision. A younger team member hears that and thinks, why are we dragging this out? Same moment. Completely different meaning. And that is how tension starts. Not because one person is necessarily wrong, but because each person is filtering the interaction through a different idea of what normal, respectful, and effective communication is supposed to look like. That is why the first framework is this: separate style from intent. This one can save teams a lot of damage. Before reacting to how something was said, ask yourself, am I reacting to the person's intent or just their style? That question matters because style is often cultural, generational, professional, and personal. Intent is what tells you whether there is actually a problem. Maybe the short email was not rude. Maybe it was just brief. Maybe the long explanation was not controlling. Maybe it was meant to reduce confusion. Maybe the employee asking why is not trying to challenge authority. Maybe they are trying to understand the reasoning before they commit. Maybe the manager asking for more formal updates is not micromanaging. Maybe they are trying to protect accountability. When you confuse style with intent, you start personalizing things too quickly. You assume disrespect, entitlement, resistance, or rigidity when what is really happening is a difference in norms. And once bad intent gets assigned, trust starts dropping fast. The second framework is one of the most important. Name the preference, not the person. This is where a lot of leaders get it wrong. They say things like, well, that's just how Gen Z is, or that's such a boomer mindset, or millennials always want feedback, or older leaders hate change. That kind of language may sound funny or relatable, but it makes the problem worse. Because once people feel labeled, they stop listening. A much better move is to name the communication preference instead of turning it into a personality or identity judgment. Instead of saying, She's old school. Say she prefers more advance notice and more structure before decisions are made. Instead of saying he's young and impatient, say he works best with faster feedback, quicker iteration, and more autonomy. Do you hear the difference? One creates defensiveness, the other creates clarity. And clarity is something a team can actually work with. The third framework is where real progress begins. Create team agreements around communication. A lot of workplace tension does not come from personality. It comes from invisible rules. One person thinks it is fine to send messages at night because they do not expect a response until the next day. Another person sees that same message and immediately feels pressure. One person thinks meetings are for open discussion. Another thinks meetings are for final decisions. One person thinks feedback should be direct and immediate. Another thinks feedback should be private, warm, and more carefully framed. If none of those assumptions get discussed, people will keep disappointing each other without even realizing why. This is why strong teams talk openly about their communication norms. They decide things like, what actually counts as urgent here? What belongs in Slack versus email versus a meeting? How fast do we realistically expect responses? How do we want feedback to be delivered? When should someone ask questions, and when should they move forward? How do we disagree without making it personal? These may sound like small things. They are not. These conversations reduce friction because they replace mind reading with clarity, and clarity is one of the best tension reducers in the workplace. The fourth framework is especially important if you are a manager or team lead. Become a translator, not just a messenger. A lot of cross-generational conflict happens because people are saying things in a language the other side cannot hear. A more experienced leader might say, this needs to be more polished. A younger employee may hear that as vague, frustrating, or dismissive. But a strong manager translates it. They might say what they're really asking for is a clearer recommendation, stronger framing, and fewer loose ends. Now the message is usable. On the other side, a younger employee might say, this process feels unnecessary. A senior leader may hear that as resistance or lack of discipline. But a strong manager translates upward too. They might say, they are not trying to avoid accountability. They are flagging that the current process may be creating extra friction without enough value. That is leadership. Because sometimes the smartest thing you can do is not to repeat exactly what someone said. It is to help other people understand what was meant. The fifth framework is one that can change the emotional temperature of a team very quickly. Lead with curiosity before correction. When somebody communicates in a way that annoys you, the natural instinct is to correct them. But correction without curiosity often makes cross-generational tension worse. Instead of saying, you need to be more professional, try, can you walk me through how you were thinking about that? Instead of saying, why are you pushing back, try, what concern are you trying to solve for? And instead of saying, you're overcomplicating this, try, what risk are you seeing that we should pay attention to? Curiosity slows judgment down. And that matters because most communication conflict escalates when people feel judged before they feel understood. That is true whether the person is 24 or 64. Respect is still the operating system. Finally, the sixth framework is the one that pulls everything together. Build shared standards, not generational comfort zones. This is where the best teams separate themselves. They do not organize communication around what feels most familiar to one age group. They organize communication around what helps the team perform. That is the standard, not what feels most comfortable to the oldest person in the room, not what feels most natural to the youngest. What actually helps the work move forward clearly, respectfully, and effectively. Maybe that means shorter updates, but with a clear recommendation. Maybe it means more documentation after live conversations. Maybe it means direct feedback, but delivered privately and respectfully. Maybe it means flexibility in style, but very clear accountability around outcomes. The point is that the team standard should be intentional, not inherited, not assumed, not controlled by whoever has the strongest preference. Because healthy multi-age teams are not built by choosing one generation's communication style over another's. They are built by creating a shared system that everybody can understand. And that leads to the bigger truth underneath all of this. Remember, cross-generational tension is not always a sign that your team is broken. Sometimes it is a sign that your team has a real mix of experience, instincts, and ways of thinking, and that can be a strength. Younger employees often bring speed, digital fluency, adaptability, and a willingness to challenge outdated assumptions. More experienced employees often bring judgment, perspective, pattern recognition, and a better sense of what tends to go wrong over time. You need both. The danger is not the difference. The danger is the contempt. The moment one group starts seeing the other as entitled, rigid, lazy, out of touch, too sensitive, or impossible to work with, the team starts to fracture. But when people learn how to interpret each other more accurately, communicate more clearly, and work from shared expectations, that same diversity becomes an advantage instead of a problem. So if you are working on a multi-age team, here is the real takeaway. Do not manage the tension by pretending the differences are not there. Manage it by making the differences discussable. Separate style from intent. Name the preference, not the person. Create communication agreements. Translate across styles. Lead with curiosity before correction, and build shared standards that serve the work. The best teams are not the ones with no tension. They are the ones that know how to turn tension into understanding, and understanding into better collaboration. And in today's workplace, that matters more than ever. Communication is no longer just a soft skill. It is the system that determines whether different people can actually succeed together. If this episode gave you a new way to think about cross-generational tension at work, make sure to subscribe to the Work Chat. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What is one communication difference you've noticed between generations at work that creates the most tension? I'll see you in the next episode.